So I just watched the Adam Green versus E. Michael Jones debate over his or if Christianity is a Jewish conspiracy or whatever it was titled. I just think the whole premise is kind of silly. Like I think it's weird to have a debate on a religion and not have the debate being about, oh, if the religion is true or if a certain aspect of it, but the debate is just about like, oh, is it a Jewish conspiracy? I mean, it's just kind of silly, especially because like they don't really define their terms. I watched the whole thing and I was gonna try to do like a review, like a live review of it or whatever. But it was just kind of silly to watch because the whole premise is not very sound, especially because yeah, they don't define their terms. And I mean, yeah, in a sense, I guess you could argue it is because yeah, all the early Christians were Jews and Jesus and all the apostles were Jews. So in Adam Green's mind, like that's enough. Like, oh, it's a Jewish conspiracy and it's bad. Like, I do like also how they both have to like assert that anything related to Jew is bad. So they'll just point and say like, oh, that's a Jewish thing, and like E. Michael Jones will say like, oh, that's Jewish. Like, but I'm not against Hebrew or Israelite, but like, yeah, the Bible, like the Gospel of John says Jew a lot, and it's always in a negative tone, and it's just kind of an odd debate in general. So I don't really know where I'm going with this, but yeah, I think they raised a couple points. Basically, like Green said that, like, oh, it's like all a big Jewish plot to have Christianity come in, and the whole like part of the plan is that Jews would reject Jesus and then be hated by Christians, but that's like still part of their master plan, and that like I don't know, just like at the end times, which I don't even know what he talks about in end times. I guess he thinks it's a self fulfilling prophecy because he's not even a religious person in that. Like he doesn't believe it, so I don't know why he even really cares at the end of the day. I guess he just thinks that it's a self fulfilling prophecy, and Jews want to like make it happen or whatever. And then Jones just like again like they both just have Jew on the brain. Like they don't like it's like they don't think about anything else ever. So Jones, in his own way, is like, oh, it's the axis of history is like Jew versus Logos, but I mean, not to be simplistic, but there's plenty of other fucking things that happen in history that have nothing to do with Judaism. Like Jews for a lot of history played like a very minimal role. I'll agree that the 20th century had like a lot of Jewish influence, I guess, like not just in terms of politics or whatever, but just like math, science, whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean, like if anything, the biggest religious conflict, at least in the West, was Islam versus Christianity. But I guess Green would probably just say that's like all part of a Jewish thing too, because he probably thinks Islam's a Jewish conspiracy as well. Um, yeah. So what else did they say? I mean, I don't know. There's not much to comment on it, but I do like to point out kind of like the weird, just like the weird things that they focus on. It seems like a better debate subject would be if it's true or not, and also like other debaters. Not, I mean, Adam Green doesn't really know much about this stuff. He just regurgitates stuff from like mythicist historians, and I mean, the mythicist position is like a minority fringe position. I mean, there were respectable mythicists like Richard Carrier and Robert Price and whatnot, but and this doesn't even go into like JQ so much as just like religious scholarship, but I mean, the mythicist position of Jesus is a minority position. Like most people think he existed in one way or the other. So yeah, I mean, Green just totally he just takes like the worst what's the word, like the most Jesus Christ, like the most bad faith interpretations of things and the most bad faith like takes on things because he like everything has to be negative about it, and also everything has to be like just a myth, and I don't know, that's just not really how scholarship works, and that's not how like an unbiased person would think about things. Like I mean, I'm not a religious person, so but I don't like take everything in the Bible as like total myth or as some like evil plot. I mean, some of it is just like it is what it is. It's not, there's nothing behind it. There's not a nefarious thing behind it. And that's like the main point really is that Christianity, I mean, religion in general pops out of like various things like social, material conditions, like maybe some big events that happen, like they help form religion and certain ideas, and like they all share, like every religion, if you look at it from a secular historical perspective, they all like take from their surroundings and like different philosophies of the time. Like Zoroastrianism, like if you just look at it from a historical perspective, like has a lot of influence on Judaism, which then has a lot of influence on Christianity. I mean, there's nothing like nefarious about that. It's just what it is. Like religions influence one another, philosophies influence one another. So, yeah, I mean, he just has to put like a negative spin on everything Jewish, but it's just kind of silly. And the fact that like he thinks that Jews made like Jews being persecuted is like part of the plan. It's like it gets to a point where it's like his model of explaining things is so insane. Like it's just not a good model because it's very simplistic and it really just, I don't know, it's just not a good explanatory tool. And then E. Michael Jones, like he kind of does the same thing, like, oh, everything's just the Jews, and he has like this weird, like, I think he has a double standard. Like he says everything, he just says like, oh, like all revolutionaries are really just being Jews, even if they're not ethnically Jewish, they're just being like Jewish in spirit. It's like, why are you blaming Jews when it's not a Jew doing it? Like he like blames the Protestant Reformation and on Jews and stuff, even though like he'll say it wasn't like ethnic Jews, but he says, oh, they were Judaizers and they were bad because of that. And it's like, okay, I mean, just so like everything bad is Jewish in this guy's eyes. And like obviously I know a lot of his followers agree with that shit, and probably if they come on this channel they'll comment that. But I just think it's simplistic and not very, yeah, just simplistic and kind of narrow. And he doesn't seem to take the same like stance when it comes to like Islam or something, or other, I don't know, like take Islam for example. He seems to like say that's like oh, we worship the same God and like they're fine. But I mean, if you look at historically, like the Catholic Church fought Islam the most. Like those were the two, like they fought each other all the time. I mean, I guess until Protestants came along. So, but like he doesn't seem to really have a problem with them. I just think it's like a weird double standard. And then yeah, like I waited and listened to some of like the questions at the end, and like the questioners are so like just so stupid. Like like, oh, like E. Michael Jones, is it logical that the first pope was a Jew, Peter? It's just like, what does that even? Who cares? Like what? Like Jesus was a Jew, like ethnically. Like if you're gonna go that route, and then like the people who are Christian but like try to make it work because they still have to make their Christianity anti-Jewish, they'll say like, oh, he wasn't really Jewish, he was something else. But and like, oh, Jew isn't the right word to use, but like we all know what we're trying to say. Like he was a dude, like a Hebrew who followed the Old Testament. Like that's a Jew in our modern language. So like yeah, Peter was a Jew, all the apostles were Jews. So it's just this weird semantic game that they all seem to be playing. And I don't know, my overall thoughts on the whole debaters, it was just like a waste of time overall. I mean, it wasn't very, I don't think people got much out of it. But it did seem like all the commenters, I watched it on Odyssey, and all the commenters were like super just like, oh, like Jones got crushed and he's a Jew shill somehow. But like, I mean, it's just goofy. Like there's no, I don't know. I just don't really see the logic behind this kind of thing. I mean, with these kind of people, there's no, like, it's just Jew on the brain. It's eating away at their brain. They can't think of anything else. Like, it's just odd. But I thought I'd give my thoughts because I did watch it. I was gonna do like a big review, but I mean, there's really not much to review. You could find way better religious debates on YouTube, so I would recommend that, not that one. So until next time.